Level 1. Pressed Man. You are nobody. You are also not even a pirate yet. 3 nights ago, you were drinking in a Portsmouth tavern with no plans beyond a second cup. Then the door opened, and 4 men walked in who weren't there to drink. You were pressed, grabbed off your stool by a Royal Navy gang, and handed to a merchant captain who needed warm bodies more than he needed to pay them. Nobody asked. Nobody explained. 1 minute you were on land, the next, you were in the hold of a strange ship with 9 other men who looked exactly as confused as you felt. 2 of them are crying. 1 hasn't moved since yesterday. Your hands are already split open from the ropes. The salt water gets into the cracks, and you stop noticing the sting around day 3, which somehow feels worse than noticing it. Here's the bottom of the world. No rights, no pay, no name. The captain can have you flogged for looking at him wrong. You eat what's left. You sleep where there's space. The quartermaster gives you 6 hours between watches if he's in a generous mood, which he is not. But you're watching. The real pirates. The volunteers, not the pressed men. They move differently. They eat first. They talk back. They laugh at the captain behind his back and nothing happens to them. Last night one of them crouched at the edge of the hold and looked at you. "You want to keep scrubbing that man's deck," he said. "Or you want to take it?" You didn't answer. You're still thinking about it. The life you had is already gone. The only question now is what kind of man decides what comes next? You or someone else? Level 2. Ordinary pirate. You signed the articles. That's it. That's the whole initiation ceremony. A piece of paper and a candle. Every man signs or makes his mark. You sign. And just like that, you have more rights than you've ever had in your life. Equal share of the plunder. A vote on where the ship goes. Compensation if you lose a hand. 600 silver coins. Right there in Clause 4. More than the Navy ever offered for your whole body. There's also a clause about not gambling with the ship's carpenter. Nobody explained why that's specific. You don't ask. You're nobody special. One of 60 men on a sloop that smells like fish and gunpowder. But you're nobody special equally. And that's the thing people on land never understand about the pirate code. This isn't chaos. It's a democracy. And a brutal one. Every man gets a voice. Every man gets a share. And every man is expected to be willing to die when the time comes, which balances out the voting rights somewhat. The work is miserable. Watch rotations every 4 hours. Rigging in a storm with your fingers going numb. Weeks of flat sea and blistering sun and salt pork that was suspicious when they loaded it and has not improved. Then a ship appears on the horizon and the captain gives the order to run up the black flag. 60 men moving from bored and sunburned to something else entirely. The merchant captain on the other ship does the calculation. Fight and probably die, or surrender and probably live. Most surrender. The flag does the work so the guns don't have to. Last week, you took a small brig out of Barbados. The crew surrendered before a single shot was fired. Your cut came to 14 silver coins. Enough to drink for a month. You were back to nothing in 4 days, which tells you something about yourself that you've decided not to examine too closely. The money comes fast and goes faster. But for the first time in your life, nobody owns you. That's worth something, even when it doesn't feel like it. Level 3. Skilled hand. You have a specialty. On a ship, that is the closest thing to armor. You're the carpenter, the man responsible for keeping 60 men from drowning. When a cannonball punches through the hull and the sea starts coming in, everyone else is fighting or running. You go toward the hole, knee-deep in cold water, pounding rope fiber and tar into the gap with the ship still moving, and somebody above you screaming about things that are not your problem right now. The captain never thanks you after. He doesn't need to. The ship is floating. You both know what that means. You earn a larger share than ordinary men. 1.5, sometimes 2 shares to their 1. It's written into the articles because a ship without a carpenter is just a very confident way to die at sea. The ordinary men count their coins during the share out and count theirs. They resent it for about 10 minutes. Then something breaks, and they come and find you. You patch hammock frames. You fix the cook's shelf. You rebuilt the gunner's shot rack after he backed into it during a storm, which he has never acknowledged and you've never brought up, because some debts are better left unspoken. 2 months ago, a cannonball came through the hull below the waterline during a chase. You were in the water up to your chest in the dark for nearly half an hour, working by feel, before the leak slowed. When you climbed back on deck, shaking, the battle was over and the crew was already dividing up what they'd taken. Nobody noticed you'd been gone. You don't carry a sword much. You carry the one thing that, if you put it down, everybody dies. Funnily enough, that's exactly as much respect as it sounds like. Level 4. Quartermaster. You are not second in command. You're something the captain can never be. He commands the ship in a fight. You command everything that isn't a fight, which is most of the time. You distribute the plunder. Every coin counted in the open, in front of the full crew. No exceptions, including the captain. You settle disputes. You decide the punishment. Not flogging. Pirates don't flog. That's what the Navy does. But you can put a man to a vote, or maroon him on a sandbar with a pistol in one shot, and let him work out what that means. You're the buffer between what the captain wants and what 60 armed men with opinions will actually do. When he wants to attack a ship the crew thinks is too dangerous, they come to you first. When two men pull knives over a card game at 2 in the morning, they drag both of them to you. When the food runs short and someone has to announce half rations without getting thrown overboard, that someone is you. The captain delivers the glory. You deliver the news. Last month, Torres accused Hendricks of skimming coin from the share-out. You spent 3 hours going through both their sea chests in front of everyone. Every shirt unfolded, every boot shaken out. 11 extra silver coins in Hendricks' jacket lining. You laid them on the table. The crew voted to put him off at the next port with nothing. Hendricks wept. Actual tears. In front of 60 men who had already stopped looking at him. You didn't look away, because your job in that moment was to be the thing that didn't flinch. The captain is the face of this ship. You are its conscience. The difference is that a conscience can't afford to be liked. Level 5. Master Gunner. Every man on this ship is afraid of the cannon. You stopped being afraid 2 years ago, around the same time your hearing went. There are 12 guns on the gun deck and you know each one the way a carpenter knows his tools. You know which one pulls left. You know which one has a hairline crack along the back of the barrel that you've been watching for 6 months. You know exactly how much powder to load at 200 yards versus point blank. And you know the difference between a shot aimed at a mast and a shot aimed at the hull below the waterline, because those are two completely different conversations. In a fight, the gun deck is the worst place on the ship and the most important. Smoke so thick you navigate by memory. The concussion of 12 guns firing in sequence hits you in the chest like a door slamming every time. Men are screaming, swabbing, ramming, hauling powder up from below. There's a ringing in your ears that started 2 years ago and never stopped. You've learned to work around it. Yesterday, you hit a sloop's mainmast at 300 yards on a rolling sea, a shot that most gunners would have called impossible, and brought it down clean. The captain cheered from the quarterdeck and the crew joined in, and you stood at your gun and watched them celebrate while you were already calculating the reload. 47 seconds if the crew is sharp. 60 if they're not. You need them sharp. The cheering is for them. The gun is yours and it doesn't care how anyone feels about it. Every ship that sails away from you is a mistake you made. You don't make many mistakes. Level 6. Sailing Master. The captain decides where to go. You decide whether they get there. You read the stars, the currents, the color of the water at different depths. You read the shape of clouds 2 hours before a storm arrives that nobody else on this ship can feel yet. Your charts are covered in handwritten corrections, new shoals, updated depths, passages that don't exist on any official map because official maps are made by men who sailed these waters once, during the day, without anyone chasing them. Nobody argues with you in the open ocean, not even the captain. When you say the weather is turning, the sails come down. When you say the draft is too deep for that passage, the ship goes around. That authority wasn't given to you. You accumulated it over years of being right at exactly the moments when being wrong would have killed everyone. 2 weeks ago, you brought the ship through a reef passage north of Tortuga in complete darkness. No lantern. A light would have shown the Navy the gap you were using. Just a weighted line in your hand, reading the depth by feel every 30 seconds, while the crew stood silent and the rocks scraped past 6 feet off the side. When you cleared the last point, the captain let out a breath loud enough to hear across the deck. He still hasn't mentioned it. 3 sailing masters you know personally have lost ships. One went down with the hull. The other 2 made it ashore and never worked deep water again. No crew would sail under a man who'd put them on a reef. You sleep lighter than anyone aboard. You're always listening for the wind to change pitch, for the wave rhythm to shift in a way that means something is different ahead. Other men drink until they pass out. You drink until the listening quiets enough to rest, which takes longer than it used to. The ocean has no memory of what you've done right. Every crossing starts at 0. Level 7. Captain. You designed your flag yourself. Skull, crossed swords, an hourglass in the center. Because an hourglass means time is running out, and you wanted every merchant captain who saw it wondering whose. Other pirates use hearts and bones and horned devils. Yours has a clock. 3 ships have surrendered without a shot, fired just because someone recognized it. That flag has saved more lives than your cannon has, which is saying something. In a fight, you have absolute authority. Every man moves on your word or people die, and they understand that. What nobody talks about is the other 23 hours, when you're 1 vote among 60 and every decision is being quietly filed away for the next time someone thinks a vote would be useful. The men who want your job watch you most carefully of all. And there are always men who want your job. You lead from the front every time, without exception. Not courage, math. A captain who sends men somewhere he won't go himself is a captain whose men start wondering what else he's willing to let them do alone. Contempt spreads faster than anything except sickness. And it's harder to treat. 6 weeks ago, you lost a man boarding a Dutch merchant off Cuba. His name was Callum, 22 years old with 3 years of sailing with you. He went over the rail during the fight, and by the time anyone looked, he was gone. The sea was rough. You didn't find him. That night you sat in your cabin for a long time, and in the morning you went on deck and you were the captain again, because that is the only thing you know how to be anymore. You have a price on your head in 3 countries, warrants circulating from London to Havana, and a rule about never sleeping in the same port twice running. The men call you captain like the word is simple. You've stopped explaining that it isn't. So far, luck has been enough. The part that keeps you up at night is knowing that's all it's ever been. Level 8. Pirate Admiral. You don't command a ship anymore. You command 4 of them, which sounds like more and is mostly just worse. 2 sloops, a brigantine, and a captured Navy frigate you've been flying your flag from for 8 months. 340 men across those 4 hulls, and every captain answers to you. Not because of any written authority, but because you've taken more prizes than any of them and kept the death count low enough to brag about. That's the whole contract. The day that changes, so does everything else. Nobody tells you that commanding a fleet is mostly logistics solved quietly before anyone notices. Where do 4 ships take on fresh water without being spotted? Where do you beach each hull to scrape the barnacles off, which has to happen every few months, or the ships slow to uselessness, without the Royal Navy finding you with your guns dismounted? How do you split a prize that took all 4 ships to take when 2 of them arrived late? You solve these before breakfast, in a way that makes everyone feel the outcome was fair, because on a fleet of pirates, feeling treated fairly is the only thing standing between you and 4 simultaneous mutinies. Last week, a captain named Reyes wanted to raid a fortified settlement on the Mexican coast. You walked through it with him. The garrison, the walls, the artillery. How long his men would be exposed before they reached the gate. His own quartermaster stopped arguing before you finished. Reyes backed down, and you could see it cost him in front of his crew. So on your way out, you told 2 of his men within earshot that Reyes had asked the right questions and saved his ship. By morning, he'd heard about it. He's still irritated, but it's the kind of irritated that sails alongside you rather than away. The admirals who last understand that being right is only half the job. The other half is making sure the men who were wrong can still look their crew in the eye. 340 men who don't technically have to listen to you. Every one of them does. For now, and in this life, for now is the only kind of forever there is. Level 9. Pirate King. Lord of the Republic of Pirates. Nassau is yours. Loosely. The Republic of Pirates. A free port with no king, no governor, no customs house skimming everything that moves. 2,000 men calling it home between voyages, ships from a dozen nations in the harbor, taverns that open at sundown and close when everyone passes out. A black market for every prize that comes in. No questions. You're at the center of it. Not by election, not by appointment, but by 6 years of being the most feared and most successful captain in the Caribbean. You don't wear a crown. You sit in the back corner of a particular tavern and men come to you. Disputes between captains, proposals for raids, requests for safe harbor, navy movements. You listen. You decide. And because your judgment has been right more times than anyone else's, it gets followed. The trick of running a republic built on freedom is that you can never let anyone feel the structure. Every captain in Nassau woke up this morning convinced he answers to no one. And that belief is what keeps them here. The moment your authority becomes visible, something they can resent, it's over. So you keep it invisible. You deal in favors and information and the memory of what you've done for people, and you make sure it always looks like their idea. You know everything that moves through this port. Men tell you things over rum without realizing they're telling you anything at all. 3 months ago, the British sent an envoy, Woodes Rogers, a new royal governor, arriving the following year with warships and the king's pardon for any man willing to take it. Some of your captains are already thinking about it. You see it when they go quiet at the wrong moment, when they start asking what the pardon actually covers. You burned the document in front of the envoy. A performance. A clear message to anyone watching. What you didn't tell anyone is that you spent a long night reading it first, going through every clause, looking for your name. It wasn't there. Not because they'd forgotten you, because men like you don't get pardons. Your name is too large, your crimes too specific, your face too well known in ports that fly the Union Jack. The pardon was real, but it was never yours. And at 3 in the morning with the candle burning low, you understood that the Republic is all you have left. Not a choice. A fixed point. Every morning you walk down to the harbor and count the ships. Every morning the number is smaller, and the ones leaving aren't sailing out to hunt prizes. They're sailing toward pardons in small houses and dying in a bed. You understand it. You were them once, young enough to believe that freedom and safety could coexist. Empires fall to armies. Republics fall to comfort. The most dangerous thing in Nassau isn't the navy on the horizon. It's the men in the taverns tonight doing the math on what their freedom is actually worth and coming up with a number. You already know what that number is. You're just the last one left who isn't willing to say it out loud.